Alright guys, so we're going to get started on the WebMarks application. Now as I said, we're going to be using Meteor.js, which basically is a JavaScript platform that allows us to write server-side and client-side applications. And obviously we're using Angular 2 on the client side. So what you need to do first is install it. So if you go to meteor.com and go to install now, you'll see that if you're on a Mac or Linux, you can actually use curl to install it. If you're on Windows, as I am, you want to just download the installer and run that. Okay, it's very simple. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to go through that, but it's very self-explanatory. All right, once you get that installed, you should have access to the Meteor command. Now you'll notice I'm using the standard Windows command prompt as opposed to the git bash utility. That's because that utility seems to have some issues with Meteor. At least I ran into some issues, so we're just going to use this for this project. Alright, and you might need to restart your machine to have access to the Meteor command, I'm not sure. But once you get that set up, you just want to go to wherever you want to create your project folder and just type in Meteor, create, and then whatever you want to call it. Okay, we're going to call it WebMarks. So that'll go ahead and generate a Meteor application. I'm going to add this to my editor. Alright, so that happens really fast. And you can see that we have 3 folders here that it created. A .meteor folder, that's basically the whole Meteor system. We're not going to touch anything in there. Then we have a client folder and a server folder. Okay, as I said, Meteor runs on the client and server. So whatever you put in the client folder here will run on the client. Whatever you put in the server will run on the server. Alright, now we can actually start this application if we go into WebMarks and we just run Meteor. Okay, and that should start up, I believe, on port 3000. Alright, so 3000, so we're going to go to HTTP localhost 3000, and we get this welcome to Meteor page, which isn't much, but this is basically just a sample application. If we click this button, you can see that the number here changes, and that's about all it does. Alright, now if we look at the files here, there's an HTML file which has the HTML, has some dynamic variables in it, and then the main.js file. Basically what it's doing here is it's creating what's called a template and naming it hello, and then you can have different properties and functions connected to this template. So you can see we have onCreated, which takes in a function, and it's basically just setting up a counter. And then we have the hello helper function counter, which is just going to go ahead and add one. Actually, no, down here it's adding one to that counter. All right, but this isn't really important. We're actually going to delete these files. We don't need them, so we're going to go ahead, delete that, and we're also going to delete the main.js file. Okay, we'll get into this later. And all I want to do now is in the client folder, we're just going to have an index.html file. All right, let's go ahead and put in a body tag. And we're just going to say hello world and save it. And now if we look at our app, it's just outputting hello world. So you notice that I only have body tags. I don't have HTML or head tags, and that's because Meteor actually creates those for us. If I was to do a Control U and look at the source code, you can see that this looks very strange. It's just because Meteor does a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't really see. All right, but you can see that it generates the doc type, the HTML tags, things like that. So now that we have that up and running, what we're going to do is we're going to install the Angular 2 packages that we need to. Okay, so we're going to go back into our command line and Control C to stop it. Excuse me. And before we add Angular 2, we just want to remove the Blaze HTML template engine that comes with Meteor because we're not going to use it. So if we say Meteor remove, okay, Meteor has its own package system where we can add and remove packages. So we're going to remove Blaze HTML-templates. Okay, so those are gone. Now we're going to install the Angular 2 packages that we need. So we'll say Meteor add Angular 2 dash compilers, and we also want what is it, Barbatus or Barbatus, and we want to do colon Angular 2 dash runtime. Okay, so we want these two packages. So I have another set of packages that I want to install, and I'm going to paste this in. Now I know this is a lot of text here, so I'm going to include a snippets file in the resources folder so you can just copy and paste it. Alright, so we're using Meteor npm install, and you can see we're using reflect metadata, Angular 2 Meteor, which is a bridge for the two. We have an Angular 2 Meteor polyfill. These are for browser compatibility. Angular platform browser. So let's go ahead and run that, and that could take a couple minutes, so if it takes too long I'll just pause. Alright, so that's all set. Now what we're going to do is go back to our editor, and in the root, not the client or the server folder, but in the root, we're going to create a new file, and this is going to be the tsconfig file. It's going to be tsconfig.json. Alright, so essentially what we're doing is just setting up Angular 2 from within Meteor. So a lot of this stuff we've already seen. And there's quite a bit here, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. Alright, so we're just setting up our compiler options. You can see that we want ES5 to be our target. We want to be able to use the common JS modules. Down here we're setting our files, our client, server, and we're also going to have a typings folder. And we want to exclude node modules from compiling. Alright, so let's save that. So next we're going to set up our typings. So you want to install typings globally. So we'll do npm install typings -g. And then we're going to run typings init. Okay, then we need to install a couple different things here. We're going to say typings install, and we want es6-promise so that we can use promises. Okay, we're going to do --save. Okay, that's all set. We also need the ES6 shim typings. So let's change this to ES6-shim. Actually, I think we got to do, at the beginning of this, we need to do DT and then the tilde, ES6 shim. Alright, and then we're also going to add the global flag. Alright, and then we need the Meteor typings. So we're going to say typings install registry /env/Meteor. Okay, we're also going to do global and save. Alright, you can see if we look in our file structure, we now have a typings folder, and it just set up those typings for us. Okay, usually we use the quick start or the Angular CLI, and that has this already set up. Alright, but that just did it manually. Alright, so let's go ahead and make sure that we can still run Meteor. Okay, we're not going to see any difference, but as long as we don't get any errors, we should be okay. So let's wait till that starts. Alright, so let's go ahead and reload. Alright. So everything's running okay on the Meteor side, and Angular should be set up. Now in the next video, we're going to start to create our Angular structure and our core app component and all that good stuff. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.